Galadriel and Tarmiriel, they had their Me Too moment in this episode. In 1 hour, I'm going to be halfway through The Rings of Power. That means I will be watching episode 4, entitled The Great Wave. And this is the byline I just read. Queen Regent Miriel's faith is tested. Isildur finds himself at a crossroads. Elrond uncovers a secret. Arondir is given an ultimatum. Theo disobeys Brahmin. Theo. Okay. Positive there? There's nothing about the Harfoots. Maybe we don't get any Harfoots. This would be great. I'm so excited. So halfway through and no Harfoots? Whew. Let's stick with that. If you like what you're seeing, we'd appreciate you subscribing, of course, you liking, of course, you sharing, of course. That's always nice too. So we now have a Patron platform at theonering.com/patron. If you like to get into Tolkien, if you want to hear an extended version of our podcast, launching that in a couple of weeks. If you want to join the chat on our private Discord server and chat on our message boards too, which we'll be launching within the next few weeks as well, you can do that. You can sign up at theonering.com/patron. It's only $4 a month, but the first month is free. So if you cancel within the first 30 days, no harm, no foul, you can move on. And we can move on. Everybody's happy. See? That's the way it goes. Just like I'm going to feel after watching episode 4, The Great Wave. So let's see how this goes. Crossing my fingers for no Harfoots. So here we go. All right. Oh no. Hour and 10 minutes. Is it anathema to say that I'm not a huge fan of this music by Howard Shore? It feels just disconnected from the other music that Bear McCreary wrote, and there's no through line from this to the rest of the music. I don't know. Nobody goes off trail and nobody walks alone. Wait, whoa. An earthquake is the island stretching. Sometimes our island just needs to stretch. Visions are still lazy, just like prophecy. Making Miriel motivated by a dream is a lazy way of creating a character who has a purpose. Rather, show us she has a reason outside of the destruction of Numenor to save the faithful.
I was only trying to be clever. Cleverness.
Mm-hmm. Just like the writers. Trying.
Or an elf lover.
There is nothing worse in the world than an elf lover. Unless you're already an elf, then being an elf lover might be a compliment. Depends on how good of an elf lover you really are. Boom, chicka wow wow. Yes. Another chant.
Drinks all round.
Drinks all around? That's what he says? Well, yeah, you know. I mean, giving people free stuff is, here in America now, the most tried and tested way of getting a vote. So there you go. There is a tempest inside her. I don't get the whole voice calling thing. There's way too many visions and voices for these men of Numenor. You know, I guess I'm okay with so far with Isildur's story, but I'm not sure about making his motivation apparently the still small voice calling his name from the west. Isildur. Okay, first reaction of Adar. He kind of looks like a half orc, half elf, so maybe he was only half twisted. So he's an orc-elf, an elf orc, a fork. It's funny that they gave Adar long hair, and in that way, he almost feels more like an elf that we know from Peter Jackson's films. Oh no, really? They made him lick it. Do something new. They're fast. If they built that, I mean, how many? A few days, right? Is that all that's passed? How much time? What is the time frame? I don't get it. Can we? Wait, but like, is this the new structure? And they're already like a quarter of the way done in a couple of days? What in the world? They're compacting the timeline, but they're compacting the map. It's like they don't care about the map at all. There is no secret worth concealing with deception. I've seen enough sitcoms to know that that's not true. Yeah, Durin and Disa are a little more interesting than the rest of them. Although, if they tried to create their relationship through incessant double entendres every time they come face to face, I think we're going to lose interest pretty fast.
Rich crown, kiss the stone, polish your gems and gold.
Well, that was fortunate.
Dwarven anger outlives even elven memory. Break your promise.
I like that line. Dwarven anger outlasts elven memory. That seems appropriate. Good job, writers. You got one.
Are you really about to advise me in the art of war?
No. I wouldn't dare.
They've done nothing to show us that she doesn't need advisement. She's only been rash and brash and unthinking in almost every decision she's made so far. Really? We're just right back into battle mode Galadriel? Okay, see that art in the back? That's better than what happened in the last week when we had the canvas. What are they doing? They're fighting a sea dragon, it looks like. Probably the worm. Nice touch. No. She climbed on the outside of the tower. No. This is truly Assassin's Creed. She should have been in the next one. We could have called it like Assassin's Creed Numenor or Assassin's Creed the Meneltarma. Faith may bind one heart, but it is too fine a thread to hang a kingdom. They're getting better. That metaphor, that simile is not bad. Okay, improving. Practice makes better. Right around the corner. I knew it. That was so obvious. Oh no. Okay, good. I thought that was going to be the Harfoots. Whew, close. For the scene of the orcs chasing Arendir and Theo through the forest, it was actually action that meant something because they wanted Theo's hilt, right? The sword that magically creates smoke and creates a dagger, sword, blade of some kind. But it meant something. It's not like the snow troll. It's not like the worm in the ocean. It's an action that actually drives it forward. The writers hit the Durin story, and you can tell they kind of enjoy it. They figured out the characters a little bit more. They weren't very good at creating the relationship, but at least now with some time, even though they've just been talking about how much they like each other, and they haven't really shown us how much they like each other or why exactly. But the banter is enjoyable. They touched. They actually finally touched. They love each other. You may be seated, Galadriel. Please sit down. Apparently, that line of faith, that string that holds it up, is strong enough to hold an entire civilization. Good to know. She was wrong. All right. So, let's get the obvious part out of the way for this episode. I think it was the best one. It was good. It had moments that were somewhat enjoyable. But it didn't have any Harfoots in it. And I think that was the reason why. Like, you get rid of the complete fluff that doesn't matter in the show, and turns out the show's a little bit better. Funny how that works, right? A few things that stood out to me in this episode. One is that the whole Adar scene, at least, he's an interesting character, even the really brief points we got, because he's elf and orc, or he's a Forc, like I said. He's more interesting than just the big baddie that we haven't heard about, or just the orcs, or the one-note Galadriel, right? There's obviously some tension just in that he's an elf leading orc. So at least in that sense, it's interesting. He looks like he's partially corrupted. That's my guess. That's what it looks like, or either that he's burned, or who knows. But they should have started with that. The whole lead up into Adar, like if they would have introduced him in some way that was engaging, you didn't need this whole lead up into who he was, because it was completely unnecessary. Introducing him would have been far more interesting 3 episodes ago. Clearly, the writers like the Durin, Elrond, Disa, the whole dwarven storyline to them is where they do their best work. It's clear they like writing for them, and though they still have some ham-fisted lines here and there, they do come up with some better ones now. And to actually see a relationship, right? You see the strain, you see the struggle, you see the smiles, you see the affection, even though that, like I said, ham-fisted, because apparently when Durin and Disa get together, all they do is they get a little hot under the collar, and they're just going to pull away and wait for tonight. They've done that twice now. Do that again, and you're going to totally lose me in that whole relationship. Show us more than that. They've got the hots for each other. I don't think these writers, though, when it comes to Galadriel and her storyline, I don't think these writers have any grasp of who this character is at this point. She is a one-note vengeance monster, like I said. She is simple, right? There's nothing in her. After 5,000 years as an old elf, you would have thought that she would be the one perhaps to speak to Halbrand in a commanding way that told him of her experience. She's so one note, she's boring. And of course she can scale, she can parkour. Parkour! Up an entire, 300-foot tower in Numenor, just like Assassin's Creed. Her storyline is now, in this episode, was just the most boring part. I didn't enjoy it much. And they talk again. They have the problem of creating a metaphor and then completely going back on it. Just like you remember in the last episode, the Harfoots. Sorry, the Harfoots. Nobody goes off trail and nobody walks alone. Nobody goes off trail and nobody walks alone, right? So here we have faith is a fine strand that can hold together a heart, but it's not strong enough to support a civilization. I can't remember what she said, but you're right. So she's saying like faith was not that, but then she makes a decision based on faith. So what she said, she doesn't believe. And this is not a way to build a character. If she doesn't have the faith, then why would she go with her? Show us, like there was no discussion of them having the faith at some point. She just kind of decided to change her mind once Galadriel broke her window and barged in on her father. And she talked about her past, and they have similar problems. There's nobody believes me. I am all alone. I don't like that whole attitude that they find common ground because they're the only ones that believe me. It's their Me Too moment is what it is. So yes, Galadriel and Tarmiriel, they had their Me Too moment in this episode. Right there. So yes, best episode so far. 97.3% of that reason is that the Harfoots are not in it. And we could just do away with that whole storyline because nobody really cares about them. Nobody. So those are my thoughts. Best of the 4 so far. Was it enjoyable? It had its moments. Seeing this Discovery of Mithril. I like the Discovery of Mithril. It was something that wasn't explained at all in Tolkien, so they had some leeway into like going into where this Mithril came from. And they delved too deep that's when they discovered the Balrog. So clearly Mithril has something to do with that in the story here. And I like that. That was a place where you could go, which doesn't change the characters like they did with Galadriel, like they're doing with Tarmiriel, like they're doing with Elendil. It doesn't change the characters, but gives them a story to lean into and tell to us in hopefully a smart way. And so far, so good with that story. I hope it makes sense. And I hope that with Durin and Elrond going to Lindon now, it's not an overnight stroll again, and that they take more than just what the clothes on their back, because this whole compression of time and this compression of distance makes no sense. You can't follow it. Tolkien spent time trying to make sure that how far his characters traveled made sense within the confines of the map that he had already constructed. And if it didn't, he had to work around that and he had to fix it. So I wish they would have taken that same approach, because it's a lazy not to. You could have had one guy, you could have hired a guy for $100,000 and said, you are our map and time guy. You're going to make sure that how we portray people's travels is important, and that would have been like 0.001% of their whole budget for this show. So they could have afforded that, I think. Anyway, those are my thoughts. If you stuck around this long, thank you for watching. I would appreciate a share, a like, a subscribe down below. And if you really enjoyed it, we do have a Patron platform that you can become a part of. It's at theonering.com/patron. You get access to our private Discord server. You get access to our message boards going live soon. And then also the extended podcast for Window on the West at windowonthewest.com. That'll be coming out soon too. And you can join us there. We'll be answering your questions. We're also all involved in the Discord chats. It's really a lot of fun. So I hope you see us there at theonering.com/patron. $4 a month. First month is free. Tell me what you thought. Best episode so far, whatever scale you want to use. It was, I disliked it the least. How about that? Thanks a lot. See you in the next one. Take care.